Why is Netflix the preferred partner for this deal?
The Netflix transaction is the result of a very extensive process that this board really undertook in 2022 after we acquired Warner Media to get the value out of those assets, to delever the company, to make the operations more effective and robust, and then looked at separating the businesses. And then it turned out not only did we have the possibility to separate the two businesses, but also a lot of people were interested in buying one or the other or both. And so as a result of a very large public process, very robust, competitive, the Netflix transaction came out on top, and we do believe that that is by far the superior transaction for our shareholders.
Mark, let me bring you in on this because you are a veteran of this industry. You have long worked with media companies, tracked media deals. What are the sort of considerations one should have, and what is a very large transaction?
Sure, Dani. It all comes down to speed, certainty, and what Netflix does offer is speed and certainty. They're moving ahead. They have the cash. They have the balance sheet. I think what you see is other bidders who don't provide that certainty. And shareholders, at the end of the day, Wall Street loves certainty.
And Andy, we know that Warner Brothers shareholders are going to get a chance to vote on this deal in the coming weeks. What have you been hearing from shareholders so far about how they're viewing the Netflix deal? Obviously, Paramount's also trying to break this deal up.
So the Netflix deal, which is really two deals, the $27.75 in cash that our shareholders would receive when that transaction closes, plus the spun-off Discovery Global a linear network business as a new public company, we have tremendously happy shareholders. The Netflix transaction on its own reflects a more than 120% increase in the value of the company since last September. And if you look over a 2-year period, more than a 200% return to shareholders. So our shareholders are thrilled. The board is pleased. It's a great strategic fit, and it's tremendous value for our shareholders.
But might those shareholders be more thrilled if you get a sweetened offer from Paramount Skydance? If they pony up $34, would that complicate things?
If we receive a revised proposal from Paramount, we will do what we have done for months, which is we will consider it on its terms, on the merits, not based on what they say they will do or may do in the media, but what they actually are willing to commit to in a legal document.
And to that point, I mean, Mark, put yourself in the Paramount board's shoes. I mean, if you're Paramount and you've been saying for weeks now that your offer wasn't best and final, what are you waiting for? What do you think they're waiting for? What's their next move going to be?
Yeah, I think it comes down to the certainty. They have a team that's evaluating whether to raise this, but is it about price or is it about certainty? And it comes down to financing, right? You've got Netflix that has a balance sheet. They've got the cash. You have Paramount that has to structure and finance the deal. And so they're also limited by the financing markets. And again, it comes down to certainty.
And I would agree with that, by the way. I think, value and certainty are separate but entirely related. It's excellent to sign up a deal, but it's critical to close the transaction. And we have a tremendously high degree of confidence that the Netflix transaction will close.
What about regulatory certainty? I mean, we saw that Senate hearing yesterday. It feels like both sides, Andy, are coming at this. From the Democratic side, it's too big, it will create a behemoth. From the Republican side, Netflix is woke, or whatever term you want to use. Donald Trump worried about CNN. It does feel like this in particular has become a political hot button issue.
I've been doing this sort of business for a long time, and when you're playing in the big leagues like this, you have to expect that you're going to go through a public process, that people are going to stake out their points of view. We've spent a significant amount of time with Netflix working on the regulatory profile of the transaction. This is a deal that's positive for consumers in terms of choice. This is a deal that's positive for creators in terms of investment in content and theatrical release with 45-day windows. This is something that's great for the entertainment industry. It's great for jobs in America. So we do have a high degree of confidence that the transactions will clear.
And more on that regulatory point, obviously Paramount is speeding ahead trying to get its own regulatory approvals for a deal that's not yet signed. Does it matter if they get certain approvals before Netflix? Does that play into, I guess, how shareholders view it at the end of the day?
Well, as I said earlier, we're having a very great and open dialogue with our shareholders. So we think before the vote, they will well understand the full regulatory landscape. At the end of the day, you need all the approvals to close. That you might be a little bit ahead on one versus another isn't particularly relevant. I also think, as has been proven in the past, that even if Paramount gets beyond this waiting period under the HSR rules, until the deal closes, which is at least 9 to 12 months away, the DOJ has the ability, and in the past has, challenged transactions. We think Paramount knows that. We know that. And as one of their lawyers who previously worked in the government said, any well-advised client knows that the waiting period expiring does not mean your transaction has been cleared.
Mark, I'd just love to get your thoughts on this.
I was just going to say, it depends also on what happens. You've got a shareholder vote coming up. If the vote goes the wrong way, clearly the deal is not going to happen. But why would the vote go the wrong way? Only if people are worried that the certainty is evaporating because of potential big changes to the deal or a block transaction. Unclear where that's going to shake out, but if there's even a hint that the transaction could be blocked, the certainty component starts to evaporate.
But what do you make just of, I mean, like even the president himself has been involved in this deal. How does that change the contours?
I mean, the arguments are, you look at something like a YouTube or Instagram reaching billions of people. The combined HBO Max and Discovery together with Netflix is 350 million subscribers. That's our estimate. So 350 million versus over a billion in YouTube, Instagram, all these companies that compete. And so to the point that was made yesterday in the hearing, this is not just about streaming content. It's a much bigger universe of competition. The consumer needs to make sure that they've got choice, but the argument that Netflix is making is there's a lot of choice out there. So we'll see what happens. It's an evolving process, but certainly it's not a slam dunk. But I would certainly say, it's also not that the deal is going to fall apart either. I think what ultimately happens is maybe there's some small changes that need to be made to make sure that the regulatory environment is safe and comfortable.
And that seems to be a lot of what the discussion has focused on is how are regulators going to define the market? Is it going to be narrow or is it going to be broad? Does streaming and your attention to streaming compete with sleep, as the argument has been made? But so just zooming out a little bit, no matter what happens here, assuming there is a deal with Netflix or Paramount, it's going to reshape the media industry. What does that mean, Mark, for those that aren't part of this? Like Comcast obviously tried to jump in here. They are on the sidelines now. What happens to them? And what happens to Paramount if they don't do this deal?
Right. I mean, this is a chess game, and everybody needs to watch where the pieces go. It's an evolving landscape, and they don't want to be left when the music stops and have no chair. So I think what has to happen is you need to look at the landscape and say, what should we be doing next? There are a ton of potential buyers who could come in here who are building media empires that would love to own some of these independent companies or companies that haven't been acquired yet.
Andy, just literally 30 seconds left. Is this just one of many more media deals to come?
Well, one of the interesting pieces of this deal is that, we'll see what the future for Discovery Global is after we do the spinoff, which will deliver value on day one, but will probably deliver substantial value in the future, depending on what comes, to your point. And the other answer to your question is yes. I mean, it's just a tremendously exciting time to be an M&A advisor in this space. There is so much going on, and it's quite creative, and it's ambitious, and it's strategic. So it's everything you want in a deal.